Okay, so let's see if one of these sliders has turned sideways. Yes, that one turned sideways. And this one. I have two that have turned sideways, so there's my problem. Almost 3. All right, so let's full throttle take off to the left here. Oh yeah. Back to normal. Okay, happy Monday morning to you all. It is Monday, August 30th, and I'm revisiting my long overdue PCX150 Variator post-mortem after my what was it, Labor Day trip, or yeah, I think it was Labor Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, I don't know. Whenever we took these up into the Ozarks almost 2 years ago now. Man, time flies. They've just been sitting in my warehouse and haven't been doing much, and I've been riding all my other toys. But Adrian and I are thinking about taking my PCXs up to Arkansas again for the Scoot the Ozarks in about 2 weeks, middle of September. So I figured it was time to dig into these again and figure out why this Variator was shuddering. It's like it's stuck in a high ratio, so the belt shudders and you can't take off very well at all. It's almost tries to stall the motor. So what I'm thinking is one of the Dr.Pulley sliders in there has gotten turned sideways and it's holding the ramp too far open, or it could potentially be something with the clutch, but I think it's more slider issue. So anyway, I'm going to tear into this thing. Let's get started. I think I have all the tools out here with me. Mostly doing this from memory, but so I can keep you on camera. I did bring the service manual out if I need it for anything. But as I recall, it's just going to be a bunch of 8mm nuts around this. On my last video that I did, there were several people that were saying, you don't need to remove this lower plastic, blah, blah. I don't know how they do it. They must be magicians, because the Variator bolt is directly behind this. There's no way to get to it without removing this panel, or at least pulling it to the side. And then, you know, the front bolts on this, you just can't get to them. So this has got to come out for the 2015 and later models. So the commenters that were saying that, I would like to see them show me how it's done without removing this plastic, because it would save me time. Anyway, so I'm going to pull the floorboard rubber. And then there's a whole bajillion screws in here that have got to come out. I forgot to bring my little parts holder out here. Well, little magnetic parts cup. I need to do the valve maintenance on these too. They are a little over 4,000 miles now. I think both my bikes have got 4,500 right at. So they're a little overdue for the valve maintenance. But almost every Honda that I've ever had that I go to check the valve clearances, they're spot on. I mean, I never have to adjust these silly things. The Super Cub was a little out when I did my valve maintenance a couple times, so air-cooled motor, maybe there's more play in there. One, two, and 3. Don't you go away. You stay right here. Okay. And then there's one more 10 mil down here. Okay, then that's kind of sort of out of there. And then there are a couple of pop clips that I've got to get to. I showed that in my previous video. Set this over here out of my way so I'm not laying on it. Good. And this is just to give a little bit of extra slack, if I can keep you guys on camera. You don't have to pull everything totally out of here. You just need to give enough slack to maneuver this panel away. And then there's one Phillips right here. And for everybody out there watching, thinking, why doesn't this guy get a lift? Yeah, I know. But this is the only exercise I get. Come on, man. You're gonna deprive me of my only exercise? Okay. So, now it's time to roll that out of there. And I did forget one more bolt right here underneath the foot peg. And what this does is just allows you to maneuver this panel without pulling everything apart. You just have to pop this loose, and that's all you need right there. It's just to get to that. Sweet. And I probably don't need to pull that front clip, but I do anyway, just in case I have to maneuver the panel getting it back on. Every now and then these clips up here in the front will get unseated enough to where you can't maneuver them back into place without mangling or manhandling this front section here. So I just pop those out of the way while I'm doing everything else. It's not that hard. Okay. So now I'm going to remove the bajillion screws that are holding on the variator cover. All right. So we got one. Oh, sorry, you guys aren't looking at much, are you? Two, and of course you can't get to this guy unless you come in through the top. And that was my point with this panel, is there's no way to get to this guy unless you remove the panel. Unless you got some weird offset wrenches that you can get in there, because this is recessed in. You have to hit it with a socket, so you'd have to maneuver in there with a really tiny little ratchet. Yeah, I don't know. I think the guys that were commenting on that may have been talking about the pre-2015 models or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe they just didn't know what they were talking about. I'm doing it in real life, showing it. They're just talking. There's a big difference. And I need that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. There are long ones and short ones. I think I went through that in my previous video, but you can line them up. You can match them up pretty easily. It's not hard to figure out which ones go where. Okay, so now this cover can come off after you get those first three black ones out of there. And again, there's no way to get to that or that without having this panel out of the way. So I'll get those now so you can see what I'm seeing. Oop, see, I can't hit it. I'm gonna move this panel out of the way. And last but not least, see if you can see what I'm seeing. Hey, I lost my socket. Okay. So that makes pretty quick work of it, unless I missed any. Nope, that's all. And then you just give it a little love tap, and it comes right off of there. Put this where it's not going to get scuffed up. I see some belt dust caking in there. It's not bad, though, for 2,000 miles on that last trip that we did. Not bad at all. Oops. All right, so gather up all of these bolts so they don't go rolling away somewhere. I'll put them all together in here. Dump them out in a minute. I gotta blow out all the dust and everything anyway. Okay, so let's see what we can see. And again, my point on this variator nut right here, how in the you-know-what are you supposed to get to that when this plastic panel is in the way? It's a direct shot right behind this part of the plastic, so unless you've got this out of the way, you're not going to be able to reach in there properly. Anyway, so now I've got all the room I need. See, I can get right straight to it. Boink! So I will have to go in the garage and get another bolt because I forgot to bring out my 17 or 19, whatever that is, and I don't think I'm going to take the clutch off. I don't think I'll need to. It seems to be just fine. Whatever this is a variator issue, so when I pop this loose, I'm going to pull out the movable face and the roller cage together tightly as one piece. That way I can examine it and see if I figure out why it's compressed. So anyway, I'm gonna go in the garage and get another tool. Okay, so the crankshaft output there, the nut holding the variator face is a 22 millimeter. So I am going to bang that off of there, hopefully with the impact wrench. I found that this Ryobi impact drill tends to put things on right at around 45 to 50 foot-pounds. So it's ideal for running these bolts in and out. Every time I've just run them in and set it on there and let it click for maybe 1 second. I don't know how many impact revolutions that would be, but it puts it in right at about 45 foot-pounds, because I'll go back in and check it with a torque wrench, and it's just right. And that's exactly what this needs, is 44 foot-pounds. So hey, good on you. And getting it off makes things so much easier doing this, because you don't have to put a pin holder and all that in here to hold this thing steady with these monkeys. So anyway, I'm going to run this out, see what we get. Nope, not today. Must be on there tighter. So I will go get a breaker bar and see if I can convince that thing to come off of there. I do have a holder for this that I fashioned for my silver wing. It's just not quite the right size for this, but I'll figure it out. Okay, I managed to get it off. I had to go grab my heat gun out of the garage and just put it on the high heat setting and focus the heat right here on the bolt for, I don't know, 45 seconds, maybe a minute. Got it good and hot, about 250 degrees or so, and it gave me enough expansion on that bolt to get it off, and it went flying over there because I wasn't going to grab it with my fingers. Anyway, so let me get all this stuff out of my way and reset, and I'll pull this out of here and show you what's what. I can't grab this right now because it's too stinking hot. Okay, let's see if I can get this out of here without burning my fingers off. It's going to be good and toasty. Okay, I don't want to grab that either. It's going to be really hot. Hey, don't burn me. Yeah, it's hot. It's cooking me through that. So I got this up to easy 225, 250. Okay, so now the trick is I'm going to pull the belt out of the way. Hopefully I'm keeping you guys on camera. Belt still looks pretty good. It only has 2,000 miles on it. That's fine. I'm just going to fold that back out of the way like that. And then I'm going to reach in here. Yeah, look at all this. It looks like there's some kind of greasy oil something on there. Man, I hope my my output shaft on the motor isn't leaky. That would suck. Crankshaft seal. This is going to be hot, so I'm going to see if I can get behind it gently. Pull everything off as one piece, including the drive boss. Yeah, it's warm. Well, I don't see any oil in there, so I can't figure out what all this schmutz is right here, but apparently inside there it's got schmutz that's causing it to misbehave. Okay. Alright, let me woo! Yeah, get that out of my way. Yeah, it's so hot it's etching the rubber. It's burning into the rubber here. Good stuff. Alright, I'm going to set this down this direction so we can all see it. Now keep in mind, this is the Dr.Pulley Variator. It's not the OEM Variator on the inside. It uses the factory driven face, but the movable portion and the Variator ramp and all that, that's Dr.Pulley with their sliders in there. So this isn't too hot. I can pull this out. The trick here is I want to try to keep it all together. Get off, get off. Okay, so let's see if one of these sliders has turned sideways. Yes, that one turned sideways. And this one. I have two that have turned sideways, so there's my problem. Almost three. So I had 2 or 3 that managed to cock themselves sideways in there, and that's why my Variator wasn't returning back to the lowest ratio or furthest apart. So, yep, there's a problem. So I'm going to spray this guy out, clean it out good, try to figure out what in the hay was my oil residue that looked like was squeaking out of there. Blow out all my belt dust and detritus and put this thing back together. But yeah, that's pretty cut and dry right there. That roller was facing the wrong direction. This one is halfway the wrong direction. This one is definitely the wrong direction. They're supposed to be in that configuration right there with the bevel facing, you know, the outside of the ramp. So I know I put it in there properly. That one was kind of halfway rolled too. I know I put it in there properly, so I'm not sure why they misbehaved, but anyway. I have some fresh rollers that I might go ahead and put in here. Different weight. I can't remember which weight these are. I wish they would put the weight on here, you know, on the slider, because once you have them out of there, the only way to know is to weigh them, and of course they lose weight over time. But anyway, long story short, I'm going to clean all this up. I may put a fresh set of sliders in here that are, I think, 14 gram. These might be 12s or 13s. And yeah, anyway, so it's the post-mortem on this. That was definitely the problem. I had 3 sliders that flipped sideways. Hold your breath. So cleaning these sliders up, once you get all the belt dust and nonsense off of them, you can see the wear patterns on them, you know, the scuff marks where they've rubbed up and down in the ramp profile in the Variator. It kind of helps you figure out where they've been riding and if they're all getting rubbed evenly. See, they put the size designation on there. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera. It's 20 by 15, but they don't put the weight. It's annoying. I wish they did. Looks like these haven't been wearing quite even. See big differences in 2 of them right there, but of course I had 3 that were all wonky. And I'm just using regular old brake cleaner here. I typically use the non-chlorinated stuff, but I think this is, oh yeah, this is non-chlorinated. A little easier on your hands. Of course, there's probably people out there saying, why aren't you wearing gloves? Whatever. Can't take life too seriously, man. None of us get out of it alive. Ooh, that was chunky on the bottom. It had a lot of belt detritus on there. Belt dust cakes up in there under heat and pressure. So it forms these little granules, little marbles, and those get in the way of the clutch and Variator doing its job properly. So it's important to clean these out periodically. It's not a hard job. It takes a little time. I say about every 4,000 miles is when I usually tear into these Variators and clean them up inside. That's not what the service manual or Honda calls for, but I found that when I run my scooters long and hard on the highway, or a lot of stop-and-go city driving, the belt dust gets to be kind of a problem in there, and you'll end up with belt shuddering and weird stuff going on. Not getting full speed, things like that. And all you gotta do is just go in there, blow the junk out, clean it out like this with brake cleaner, and occasionally you'll have to go after it with a you know, very fine stainless steel wool or something like that, or steel wool, not stainless steel, steel wool. I don't like using wire or brass brushes because you can scuff up these drive faces, and that's not a good idea. And you don't want to wear these things down more than they need to be. So something very, very fine like quad-aught steel wool is a good mild abrasive, and it doesn't really damage stuff too much. But everybody has their own way, so if you got your own way that works for you, you go right ahead. I'll do my way, you do your way. These wrench videos are always quite the comment topic. Everybody wants to chime in with, no, you should do it this way, and no, you're doing it wrong, and blah, blah, blah. Hey, this is the way I do it. It works for me. I've been doing this stuff for well over 40 years on all my machines. I'm still going just fine. So you do yours, I'll do mine. Now, I've seen different schools of thought on these drive bosses. When people install them, they say they put a little bit of grease in here or dry graphite or whatever. I usually put mine together dry, because anything that you get in this belt housing here, any oil or grease, is going to attract dirt, and it's going to glom up your rubber particles, your dust, and just make a problem for you. So I don't do it. I just put them together dry. The service manual from Honda says put it together dry. That's the way I'll do it. However, I usually do put some high temp bearing grease back here on the bearings, on the clutch, on the inner part of it, on the shaft and on the inner part of the bearings, because I've had those things get real squeaky over time. Needle bearings in there, so they need lube. They're not sealed bearings. Okay, I think we're just about there. See, Dr. Pulley. Can't quite see that model number anymore, but yeah. Let's hose it down. And now we move on to the big part, which is this guy. Probably should have hit that with compressed air, eh? Don't have a lot of compressed air left in my tank. Sorry, I didn't have you on camera for that because I was trying to keep it out of my face. You can see it all on my shorts. Sorry, keep you on camera. Oh yeah, she's dirty. Soak that up a little bit. Get it all good and wet. Use that on my rag. See, here's some of that coagulated brake dust. Belt dust. It creates a film that is really hard to get off. You can see I can scratch it off with my fingernail, but even with brake cleaner and a shop rag rubbing it doesn't really get it out of there. But never, 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 never go after these things with a wire brush. That's a bad idea. Even a brass brush is too abrasive, and it scores these faces up, which is just going to mean you're going to have more wear on your sliders or rollers. Bad idea. These should be mirror smooth in there as much as possible. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Hose it out again with brake cleaner. And then, of course, you always want to clean your drive face when you're done with all this with a fresh rag. I didn't bring out a second fresh rag, so I'm going to have to go get one before I put it back together. This is a part here on this portion of it where the belt rides. You can hit that with something a little bit more abrasive, like a very fine grit sandpaper, or the stainless steel, steel wool that I was talking about, like Quad Aught, to remove all the junk on the face of your Variator. But as long as you don't see deep scoring and grooving, you're okay. This is smooth. It's just polished in certain places, so it looks like those are really pronounced, but I can't even feel them with my finger. Okay, then. She's good to go. Oh, look at that cool logo. Dr. Pulley. There's the model number. V-211501. So 211501. And then the other mark on here is A5A212. Bought the kit off of... can't remember. I think it was actually through Steady Garage or somebody like that. It might have been off of eBay. I can't recall. Okay, so that's clean. That's clean. That's clean. Now, let's... I'm going to break for a minute, go get my other sliders out of the garage if I can find them. I went in the garage and dragged the other set out that I had in here previously. These are the ones that I had in the factory Variator before I switched over to the Dr.Pulley Variator. And as I recall, they were 13 gram or 14 gram. And the ones that came with the Dr.Pulley kit were 12 gram. So I'm going to go ahead and put the heavier ones in there for better top speed and see if it makes any difference. And these seem to have a little less bizarre wear characteristics to them than the ones that were turned all goofy. What some people will do is they'll mix the weights together. They'll do, stagger them 12, 14, 12, 14, whatever, to get different aggregate size. But you can see the inner diameter on these. These are definitely heavier. These are 14 or 15 gram because you can see the brass weight thickness is much higher on the or much larger, I should say, on the 12 gram one, so it's thinner. There's less mass here. So these are definitely heavier. So lighter ones give you better acceleration, less top end sometimes, depending on the variator setup. Heavier ones give you a little bit slower acceleration and higher top end because that weight is pulling out faster, which compresses the belt up higher in the groove. So I'm going to put these back in there, see how it plays. I'll just do the assembly here. So the way these sit in here is the teardrop point goes toward the inner part of the variator. And when you put this together, I'll show you in a minute, it's important to keep pressure on the inner face there so they don't shift, because that's how you can get them in there crooked to begin with and give yourself all kinds of weird behavioral issues. I found that out the hard way. I actually had these things loaded in here upside down when I first started messing with this bike, and I thought that I'd gotten them right. I don't know how I managed to screw it up, but when I would take off, it would go really high RPM and then launch. It would almost wheelie the bike. It was kind of crazy. So those are all set properly. Let's squeeze that all together there. Shove my drive boss in place. And away we go. So just keep it pinched together and slide that guy on there. Come on. Oops, see, I messed up. I didn't keep it tight. So now, oh, ouch, that hurt. Now I gotta go back in here and make sure they didn't turn. Okay, so they're still good. I pushed on the drive boss and it separated it, so that could have allowed them to turn. So don't put any pressure on this part. Keep it pinched in the back. If I can find that, get it centered up and not push the drive face out. Okay, and just seat it all the way toward the back. And don't mess with it until you get the other face on there, and the belt, obviously. So we're gonna stretch the belt back around. Looks like I turned it inside out here. There we go. Okay, let that rest on there. Throw the outer face back on and line it up to where you get on the splines of the crankshaft. And then this is always the tricky bit, giving yourself enough slack to be able to get that driven face seated well enough. Gotta reach over and get my bolt and my spacer. And you're supposed to put a little bit of oil on these threads and on the back of the bolt before you crank it down, so that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm back with oil. Very dusty old can. Alright, so there's nothing real terribly precise about this, just grab a dribble of oil. Try not to get it all over anything else in here, only on the threads. You just want a tiny bit on there, not a lot that's going to sling out later and get onto everything. And then also on the bolt. And all this does is hopefully prevent it from seizing up like it did on me. 44 pounds of torque and good to go. And when you crank these things down, I don't know if I mentioned that in my previous Variator video, but you need to do it in a couple of stages. Crank it down once, rotate the belt around one full revolution to where it kind of loosens up and moves up on the drive faces, and then go for your torque, because sometimes the belt will be sitting too low and you're actually compressing against the belt and you're not getting an accurate reading on the bolt. Yeah, see how slack that is? So now rotate the engine over. Okay, still working on the PCX today, and I wanted to show you the result of the GoldPlug in the PCX150 after just 2,000 miles. You can see quite a bit of very fine ferrous sludge built up on the end of the magnet here, so that was all metallic ferrous stuff. Cleaner than it's been on my other bikes because they've got manual transmissions and clutches and all that, so you get a lot more detritus in the oil. There's a shiny bit right there, though. That's a real sharp, shiny bit. Probably can't see that on camera. Yeah, so gold plugs do a good job. It's cheap insurance, you know, 20 bucks, whatever, and anything that can pull out of your oil that's abrasive or not supposed to be in there is a good idea. And these engines in these small bikes, and particularly the PCX, they do not have oil filters at all. The Super Cub has a spinner, which is a centrifugal particle separator. So that kind of filters the oil a little bit, but these scooter engines like the PCX, they don't have a filter of any kind. It's just whatever's floating around down there in the bottom is floating around down in the bottom. So if you can pull metallic crap out of your oil, that's a very smart posture. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so I have it all put back together, gave it a bath, changed the oil, topped off the coolant. Didn't do the valve adjustments. I'm going to wait on that because I got to tear all the bodywork apart to do that. You got to pull the seat and the trunk tray and all that nonsense just to get in there to the top of the motor. So that's a bigger project than I wanted to do today. So anyway, got it all back together, and I'm going to go ride it around now and see if the Variator behaves itself. Ugh. I think it will. Woohoo, that seat's hot. And no, I'm not wearing protective gear. I'm just going around the neighborhood, so I think I'll be safe. Ugh. And which way to go? Let's go this way. Sounds like they're still shuddering back there, but yeah, so it's back to normal now. It's actually accelerating instead of bogging down and squeaking the belt. I gotta fix that rattly top box. All right, so let's full throttle take off to the left here. Oh yeah. Back to normal. Cool. So that was the deal. I just had 3 of the 6 sliders had turned sideways in there. How, I don't know, but yeah, we'll sort that out later. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Sounds like the belt is groaning a little bit, but it's taking off fine. Cool. And I've got the heavier sliders in there now. I've got the 14 gram or whatever it was that I had originally instead of the 12 gram. So we'll see how it performs at top speed later. This is just a quick run around the neighborhood to see if it's behaving itself. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you later.